Hello and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, the topic we're exploring might seem a little strange.
Strange is a good word for it.
Yeah, because we're standing here talking in a world that is absolutely obsessed with speed. It's almost addicted to velocity, to motion. And right in the middle of all that chaos, we're going to talk about stopping, about being still.
Right.
The perspective, the ideas we're going to unpack today, they start with a huge paradox, a paradox that I think we all feel in our bones in our daily lives, but we rarely find the courage to actually talk about it out loud.
Absolutely. And this paradox is so profound that we often don't even see it. It's like we're the fish in water, completely unaware of the water itself. We're so immersed in speed that we've just accepted it as normal.
That's a perfect analogy. So our mission for this deep dive is to understand the philosophy of being slow. But this isn't just about driving your car a little slower. It's much, much deeper than that.
It is. If you sort of zoom out, what we're really looking at is a conversation, a very deep dialogue about the exhaustion that the modern attention economy has created inside all of us. I mean, we're all tired, aren't we?
So tired.
From constantly watching, constantly listening, and maybe most of all, from constantly trying to be seen. We're on a treadmill that just never stops. So this whole discussion is about acknowledging that exhaustion and about the strange sense of peace that comes when you intentionally step off that treadmill, when you allow yourself to be ignored. We're going to talk about the libation that's hidden in being overlooked by the world.
That sounds revolutionary, just saying it out loud. Usually when you listen to a podcast or scroll through social media, it's all about what?
How to go viral.
Exactly. How to get noticed, how to grow your brand. Everyone is shouting, look at me.
Yeah.
But here in this deep dive, we're talking about the art of disappearing, the art of becoming invisible in the crowd. So let's kick this off with a really interesting and maybe slightly terrifying concept that's at the heart of these ideas. It's called the 7-second world.
7 seconds. Just 7 seconds. That number is probably the harshest reality of our time.
It is. There's this unwritten rule, an unofficial constitution of the digital world that nobody wrote down, but everyone follows. And the rule is this. If you can't shock someone in the first 7 seconds, if you can't do something on screen that makes the viewer's jaw drop, you're gone.
You're invisible.
You just don't exist.
Let's unpack that a little more. What is the 7-second rule actually teaching us? It's teaching us that patience is a crime. If a story unfolds slowly, it's useless. If a piece of music builds gradually, it's boring. We need the hook instantly.
The explosion in the first frame.
Exactly. And if you don't make noise, if you don't wave your arms around, you're considered useless in this digital space. This pressure, this constant need to perform, to be a spectacle at all times, that's really the foundation of our entire conversation today.
And look at the irony here. We're sitting here trying to talk about peace or calm. We're trying to understand stillness. But the very digital environment we're breathing in treats peace like a skip button.
Peace is a skip button. It's a very powerful idea. Think about it yourself, about your own behavior. When you're lying in bed at night, scrolling through Reels, and a video comes up where there's just silence for the first 10 seconds, or maybe the sound of the wind, or someone speaking very slowly, very thoughtfully. What does your finger do?
Right.
Do you wait? No. Your thumb, almost as a reflex, just swipes. We can't tolerate peace. We think, oh, nothing's happening here. We skip it so we can get to the next noise, the next dopamine hit.
So we're afraid of emptiness.
Exactly. We're talking about peace in a world that fundamentally hates it, a world that is in a desperate hurry to fill every empty space.
That's a really deep and honestly kind of painful thought. We're skipping peace just so we can get to the next disturbance faster. We're restless to become restless again. It's a strange addiction.
It is.
So this raises the question, and I'm sure it's on the minds of our listeners, if the world is like this, then who is actually listening to this deep dive, to this slow conversation? The perspective we're looking at has a really interesting description of the listener profile.
Yes, and I personally love this analysis. These ideas imagine 3 types of people who might be present in this room, even if it's a virtual one right now. And I'd encourage you, listening, to try and find yourself in one of these descriptions.
Okay, so who are these 3 people?
Well, the first is the creator, the speaker, the one who is talking. Like us right now. The people who feel a need to express themselves, to get their thoughts out into the world, that's the first group.
All right. And the second?
The second group is the creator themselves, but now they're sitting in front of a screen like a TV, watching themselves. It's a bit meta, a bit philosophical, but it's so true. In this day and age, we are all the biggest and sometimes the only audience for the things we create. We post something, and then we go back and look at it again and again.
Oh, we've all done that. Watching our own Instagram story 10 times.
Yeah.
And the third?
The third person, and I think this is the most interesting one, is the person who got here by mistake.
By mistake.
Yeah. I mean, they were probably looking for something else, maybe a fast-paced comedy clip or a news update. They were looking for speed. But somehow, while scrolling, they stumbled upon this slow conversation, a place where nobody is shouting, where there are no flashy graphics.
But they're the accidental tourists.
Exactly. And I want to say to you, the listener, if you're still with us, if you haven't swiped away or turned this off yet, it means you're one of a very select few. Either you have a lot of free time on your hands, which is rare these days, or, and this is more important, you're someone who has started to feel suspicious of this fast-paced world. You're starting to feel that the speed is wrong somehow, that something important is being missed.
You've really hit on something there. If you haven't run away yet, you're probably just tired of hitting the skip button. You're burned out from the noise. And maybe, even if you don't know it, you're looking for what we're calling stillness. So let's open up this 7-second world a little more. Let's do a bit of a post-mortem on it. As we said, it's the 7-second tyranny. What effect is it having on our minds, on our ability to think?
Tyranny is exactly the right word. Look, we're in an era where everything is running on an invisible timer. In content creation, in marketing, even in our personal conversations, there's this invisible clock just ticking away. We feel that if we don't say our piece quickly or if we don't spice it up, the other person will just leave. It's a fear.
An existential fear.
The fear of irrelevance.
Yeah.
That if I become boring, I will cease to exist.
And what does that fear force us to do? It forces us to shock. It forces us to say everything in a loud, dramatic way. We have to turn our lives into a reality show. And there's a crucial point made in these ideas that in this environment, the things that truly matter, like deep knowledge, understanding, or self-discovery, they just get left behind.
Because knowledge doesn't scream. You see, wisdom doesn't need to shock anyone. And self-discovery, that's an incredibly private, quiet, and slow process. It's like watching a tree grow. But in the 7-second world, there's no room for these things because they don't grab immediate attention. You can't explain the secrets of the universe or the depth of human emotion in 7 seconds while dancing to a trending song.
And even if you tried.
You'd kill the knowledge. You'd have to dilute it, make it so thin and superficial that it would lose all meaning. It would just become a caption. That's why serious, deep conversations are so often dismissed as boring. And being boring today is the greatest sin of all.
It's really something to think about. We've just relabeled depth as boredom. So this raises a big question, one that comes up in this perspective, and one that honestly bothers me a lot. Why don't people want knowledge? We often say people want to learn, they want to become wiser. Everyone's buying self-help books, subscribing to podcasts. But the data, or just what we see around us, tells a different story. Why do people run away from deep knowledge?
The answer provided in these thoughts is very direct, and it stings a little. People don't want knowledge because knowledge requires you to stop. And today, stopping is the most expensive thing.
That line is so powerful. Stopping is the most expensive thing. I think we need to pause here for a moment. Let's unpack that. What does it mean? Are we just talking about the monetary value of time, or is there another kind of economics at play here?
Oh, it's a very deep kind of economics. Look, a basic rule of economics is scarcity. Whatever is scarce is expensive. And what do we have an abundance of today? Information, entertainment, noise, opinions, they're all unlimited. There's a flood of it.
So it's cheap.
It's cheap. It's practically free. You pick up your phone and you have thousands of hours of noise, millions of videos, billions of opinions, all for free. The data plan is cheap. The noise is cheap.
And stopping.
Peace, stillness, that's rare. And it's rare because it requires an investment of time. It requires you to hold your attention in one place. And since our attention is now so fragmented, holding it steady feels like a monumental, expensive task. Reading one book for an hour feels like climbing a mountain for some people.
So noise is cheap. Distraction has no cost. It's everywhere, like pollution in the air. But clean air, meaning peace, has become a luxury.
Precisely. And there's another layer to it that's even deeper than time. When we say peace is expensive, it's not just about the hours and minutes on a clock. It's also about courage. It's about an emotional cost. There's this beautiful and terrifying line in this discussion. Sitting with yourself is the most uncomfortable meeting.
Sitting with yourself is the most uncomfortable meeting. Wow, We've all felt that, haven't we? When we're alone, say, in an elevator or waiting for someone, or in those moments just before we fall asleep, what's the first thing we do?
Reach for the phone.
Our hand goes right into our pocket.
Right.
Why? Why are we running from that meeting?
Because when you sit with yourself with no noise, no screen, you have to listen to the voices you've been suppressing all day. You start to see your flaws, your fears, your anxieties, your broken promises. They all become crystal clear. That cheap noise is a kind of drug, an anesthetic that keeps us numb. The moment the noise stops, the pain starts, the emptiness starts. So to avoid that meeting, we're willing to watch anything, any reel, any video, a cat video, a fight video, anything at all. We don't want to pay the price for that expensive peace, because in that peace, we see our true selves.
That really forces you to reflect. We're running, but not towards a destination. We're running away from ourselves. We're just afraid of standing in front of that mirror. And this running, this fear, it also affects our work, the things we create. Which brings us to our next segment, where we talk about the metrics of loneliness.
This part is very practical and a bit painful, especially for anyone who tries to create something writers, artists, thinkers.
This perspective paints a very vivid and poignant picture. Let's say you're a creator. You work hard, you research for weeks, you make videos on deep topics, on knowledge, philosophy, society. You pour your soul into it. You think it's going to change the world. And then you hit publish. Your heart is racing. You hit the refresh button. Well, what's the result? 5 views, 12 views.
And those 12 views are probably your friends and family who took pity on you, or maybe you just clicked on it yourself from different devices to check if the sound was okay.
Right. And there's this funny but also sad detail mentioned in these ideas, the self-like. The creator is sitting at home in front of their own TV, liking their own video. That image is both comical and a little heartbreaking. It feels like a celebration of loneliness.
It's a very moving image, like hearing your own voice echo in an empty hall. But, and this is a very big but, and I want our listeners to really hear this, we shouldn't see this as a failure. The perspective being presented here isn't saying this is bad or that you need better marketing. It's simply stating that this is the reality of this genre.
The reality. How so?
Look, it's like the law of gravity. If your content is slow, if you're talking about deep things, your numbers will also be slow. It's simple math. You can get rich quickly selling fast food in the market. You'll draw a crowd. There will always be a line for burgers and fries. But if you're making a slow-cooked, nutritious meal that takes time to prepare and time to eat, you'll have fewer customers. And they'll take their time showing up.
The age-old battle of quality versus quantity.
Exactly. If you're going to talk about peace, a crowd isn't going to show up because the crowd wants noise.
That makes perfect logical sense. But we're human, not robots. It still hurts. What effect do these numbers, these 5 views and 12 views, have on our psyche? We live in a world of likes, comments, and views. Our dopamine is tied to it.
See, the metrics themselves, likes, comments, views, they aren't inherently bad. They're just data. The reading on a thermometer just tells you the temperature. It doesn't cause the fever. The problem starts when we equate this with our worth, when we tie our self-worth to these numbers. And the argument made in these ideas is crucial. The real damage happens when these numbers start dictating what we say.
So we stop saying what we truly feel, and we start saying whatever will get more likes. We become slaves to the algorithm.
Precisely. And that's when a shift happens, a very dangerous one. You move from speaking to performing. Speaking stops and performing begins. The difference is subtle, but it's profound.
Can you clarify that a bit? The difference between speaking and performing.
Of course. When you are speaking, you're speaking from the heart. You're expressing a truth. Your purpose is to get your idea out, whether anyone listens or not. It's an act of expression, like writing in a diary. But when you're performing, you're putting on a show for an audience. You're constantly thinking, will this get applause? Will this increase views? Will this look good as a thumbnail? You start editing your truth. You package it. You dip it in a sugar coating of lies so that it will sell. And in that process, your own authentic voice gets lost somewhere. You stop being a person and become a product.
And with that comes a fear, a constant anxiety. What if no one listens? This question haunts every person who wants to say something. If I speak and the room is empty, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, did my voice even matter? Do I even exist?
That's an existential crisis. In today's social media age, we feel that if it wasn't recorded and if it wasn't seen, it didn't happen. Our memories, our experiences, they all depend on Instagram stories and view counts now. We're more concerned with recording life than living it.
Yeah.
But this is where the most beautiful turn in this entire conversation happens. There's a U-turn that can get us out of this prison.
The moment of freedom. Let's talk about that. The liberation from the crowd. There's a point in these ideas where a strange sense of freedom is felt. That moment when you look in the mirror and say to yourself, if no one listens, that's okay too.
That phrase, that's okay too, it carries so much weight. Don't take it lightly. This isn't defeat. People often mistake it for resignation, the sour grapes excuse. Oh, I didn't get views, so now I'm saying I don't care. They think it's a defense mechanism. But in the context we're discussing, this isn't resignation. This is a reclamation of power.
A reclamation.
Yes, taking your power back into your own hands. The moment you accept that you don't need the applause of the crowd to validate your truth, that's when you become truly free. You stop performing and you just start being. You speak not for viewership, but for truth. You sing because you have a song to sing, not because someone is buying a ticket.
That's a huge shift. So you're saying the purpose of speaking isn't just to be heard by others, that communication isn't just a transfer of information between two people.
Not at all. And this is where a very deep psychological and philosophical thought comes in, one we found in this discussion. It's the idea that the person who needed to understand was sitting inside you while you were speaking.
The person who needed to understand was sitting inside you. I love that line, but it's also a little mysterious. What does it mean? Are we just talking to ourselves or are we going crazy?
No, not crazy, just human. And a huge part of being human is the act of reflection. See, the first and greatest beneficiary of articulation is the speaker themselves. We often think we speak to explain things to others. Let me explain this to you. But the truth is, when we put a complex idea into words, when we give it structure, the idea becomes clear in our own minds first.
That's so true. So many times I figured out what I actually think about something by trying to explain it to someone else.
Exactly. Before you spoke, the thought was fuzzy, like a fog. After speaking, it becomes solid. So in that process, you are understanding yourself, you're educating yourself, you become your own teacher. So even if there's no external audience, even if there's just silence on the other side of the microphone, the process wasn't a waste. Because the listener inside, you heard it, understood it, and learned from it. You changed yourself, and that is enough.
That completely changes the entire perspective. It means the audience is secondary. The primary listener is myself. That's actually a huge relief. It takes all the pressure off.
It does. All the pressure comes from the crowd. And this is where the importance of solitude comes in. Some things are just not meant for a crowd. You can't stand in the middle of a marketplace with a loudspeaker and talk about the depths of your soul. It'll get lost in the noise, or it will be turned into a joke.
Right.
Some truths can only be understood in solitude and can only be spoken in solitude.
You're right. If those kinds of deep thoughts got 1 million views, their value would probably diminish.
Absolutely. They become a spectacle, a product for mass consumption. Like a rare flower that, if sold in a supermarket, starts to look like plastic.
What a beautiful way to put it. Not everything needs to be shouted into a stadium microphone. Some things are meant for a quiet room, in a low voice, spoken to oneself. Which leads us perfectly into our next section, the honest conversation.
And I think the kind of content, the kind of discussion we're analyzing today falls exactly into this category. It's a different species of communication.
The definition of success is being rewritten here. Usually, a podcast or a video's success is measured by its reach. How many people did it reach? What are the impressions, the CTR? But the perspective we're looking at says, this isn't for everyone. It's not designed for mass appeal. It is an honest conversation, and it comes with one condition: no selling.
No selling. That phrase is so important. If you notice, we are constantly selling something today. Social media is just a marketplace. Someone is selling a product, someone is selling a course, someone is selling their ideology, or at the very least, they're selling their image.
Look how great I am. Look how happy I am.
Right. And when you're trying to sell something, a certain artificiality creeps into your conversation. You get that salesman's tone. You want to please the customer. You say what they want to hear. You don't take risks. But when you aren't selling anything, when you don't need anything from anyone, not their money, not their vote, not their applause, not their subscription, that's when you can be completely honest.
You're not afraid of the customer walking away.
Oh, exactly. And that is an honest conversation. It's a rare kind of purity.
And in that situation, if there's only one listener, like we talked about at the beginning, the creator watching themselves on TV, the loop is still complete. The speaker spoke, the listener, who is themselves, heard it. Conversation over, no third party was needed. The circuit is complete.
It is. It's the pinnacle of self-sufficiency. And there's an immense satisfaction in that. You no longer hunger for external validation. You're not hungry, you're full. And only a person who is full can sit still. A hungry person has to run.
Finally, These ideas end with a beautiful statement of acceptance, something I think we could all use in our own lives. It's this: the world is fast, we are slow, and we have no problem with this.
That is the ultimate rebellion. In today's world, we think rebellion means, I don't know, throwing stones or yelling on Twitter or getting into arguments. But in a fast world, to move at your own pace, slowly, that is an even greater act of rebellion. It's saying, I will not compete with your speed. I will walk at my own pace, even if I fall behind.
Is there no fear of falling behind?
There is at first, but when you accept it, it becomes an act of immense courage. It's the courage to be out of sync. When you accept that the world's clock and my clock can run at different speeds and there's nothing wrong with that, that's when you find true peace. You step out of the race, and that's the only way to win, because you can't defeat someone who isn't running.
And we have no problem with this. That sentence just dissolves all anxiety. Often our problem isn't that we're slow, the problem is that we're not fast. Comparison is what causes the pain. When we see others running, we feel like we're being left behind. But when the comparison ends, the pain ends.
Well said. It's the confidence to stand your ground, to know that where I am is okay, and that my pace, my slowness isn't my weakness, it's my strength.
So let's bring this whole discussion together. We've covered a lot of ground. We started with the anxiety that the 7-second clock gives us, that pressure to be constantly interesting, to be viral, or else we disappear.
And from there, we move to the understanding that knowledge and depth require us to stop, no matter how expensive that stop might feel. We saw that the numbers that scare us on the screen, those 5 views, that silence, aren't actually a sign of our failure, but a natural result of the work we've chosen to do.
And most importantly, we learned that even if there's no one outside to applaud, our voice isn't wasted, because the most important listener is sitting right inside us. We chose expensive silence over cheap noise. And that is not a bad trade.
Not at all. That choice is our real victory. From noise to silence, from the crowd to solitude, and from performance to honesty.
So for that third listener, the one who maybe got here by mistake, who got stuck here while scrolling through Reels, and is for some reason still here.
If you are still listening, maybe it wasn't a mistake. Maybe you needed this stillness too. Maybe you were tired of your own speed and your soul was longing to sit under a shady tree for a while.
There's a really lovely sentiment at the end of these ideas that I'd like to repeat here. If you heard this, thank you. And if you couldn't, if you left halfway through, there are no complaints, no hard feelings. To remain slow in a fast world is a valid choice. We shouldn't feel any guilt about it.
None at all. Not everyone needs to run. Walking is also a form of movement, and stopping is also an action.
As those final lines say, which really summarize this whole conversation.
Let's stop here. Yes, this is enough.
This is enough.